I'm going to be covering today what I think is the most underrated street in Stud Hi, which is 4th Street. I think 3rd and 5th Street are very important, if not the most important streets, as most people talk about. But I do think that 4th Street is not talked about nearly enough, as there is a lot of strategy that can be used with a good player on 4th Street. Some of the examples I think are exploiting weaker players on 4th Street and misdirecting and deceiving good players. So let's jump right into it. There's two situations on 4th Street that I broke down, and one of them is when we have the initiative, and the other is when they have the initiative. So when do we do this? It's generally going to be in heads-up pots on 4th Street. However, it can be used in multi-way pots, and is actually almost more effective in multi-way pots. As a general rule of thumb, most people are going to give you more credit if you do it in a multi-way pot. And this can be also very advantageous, as you can isolate players and represent certain hands by doing so. So why do we do it? As I said before, I think it's a great way to misdirect and deceive good players and to exploit bad players by making them fold on later streets. So how are we going to accomplish this? Well, generally when we have the initiative, it's going to be a check raise. And in this sense, you're going to achieve a lot of customers, in the sense that people are going to believe that you actually have the hand if you check raise it, more so than if you just lead out. So let's throw an example out there. The first example here is right here, where we're the bring in, and it folds around to a 6 who completes. It can be from any position. This play is gonna be more effective with later positions, in that they're more likely to be stealing. But it can very well work on any decent range. Even if, say, a 8 raises, or a 9 or a 10 in middle position, even if he has 9s or 10s, or in this scenario, which I devised up here, we put him on 6s, we still have 45% equity, which is a great amount of equity, and it's really going to throw off good players. So this is the situation where generally I like doing this in a good anti-structure, where we bring in and our hand is totally live. We have ace king 3 with a 2 suit. In a good structure, it's an easy call, and we hit our really nice card. It's not our Yahtzee card, but it's still very strong, the Queen of Hearts. And what's going to happen most of the time is we're going to check, and the 6 is going to bet, and I suggest check raising in this spot. This is the spot of the bottom of our range in our balanced overall range. We can also do this obviously if we hit an ace or a king, or a jack of hearts, or a 10 of hearts even. I think it's really strong just because it represents that you hit the queen. It's going to work really well on weaker players. They're going to make a lot of folds on 4th Street because they're just going to be c-betting all of their missed draws, or all of their weak pairs of 6s, in which case we have a ton of fold equity on 5th Street. If they don't make 2-pair, a lot of people are just going to toss it on 5th Street. So it's a really good semi-bluff to balance the times that we call the bring in and we hit the ace or we hit the king, and we check raise with value. So it's a really good spot to confuse good players, because you're going to have that now metagame of, well, is he trying to represent the queen, or is he actually have the queen? I highly suggest doing it with a hand like this, because at worst we have 45% equity against most of their range, and we're way ahead of them. Not way ahead, but we're very far ahead if they have like a missed 3 flush or something like that. So it's in a very effective way of semi-bluffing with using good equity, which is something I always promote if you're going to semi-bluff or if you're going to bluff, make sure you have good equity. It's not too hard to figure out what kind of equity you have in hands by just looking at pro poker tools, something I've done for a long time. And I'll always promote semi-bluffing with that good equity.